Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Sunday, July 9th, 2023, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Now Mind You podcast. I'm TJ,
I'm Matt.
I'm Bryce.
and welcome to episode 73 Combat. There will be some spoilers up ahead. First things first, big shout out to our boy Matt, who just had his third pro fight, and he got that unanimous decision win. Fucking killed it.
Thank you.
Anytime you can go out to a live boxing event and you got one of your homies fighting, go support them because that shit is insane. And Bryce is back.
Bryce is back.
So it's the three of us in full effect. Yeah. So we are going to be covering UFC 290, Volkanovski versus Rodriguez. This has transpired last night as of this round. As of this recording. And I want to say what venue did it take place on? Was it the T-Mobile Arena? Felt like T-Mobile Arena Energy. I could be wrong. But either way, the venue was insane. On the card, we had Nickel versus Woodburn at middleweight. We had Turner versus Hooker at lightweight. We had Whitaker versus Duplessis at middleweight. We had Moreno versus Pantoja for the flyweight title, and it was also the co-main event. Main event. Thank you. Main event, we had Volkanovski versus Rodriguez for the featherweight title. Other things to note, Robbie Lawler was the main event for the prelims. And man, what a fucking fairy tale finish to a storied career, bro. Took out Nico Price in 38 seconds. That was a wrap. Like, you couldn't ask for a better way to go out on your own terms. Anything y'all want to add on that before we go into it?
Rob was sacrificed.
Damn, man.
This was an up and down night for Robs. I'm gonna say that.
The rule of two.
Rule of two, man. Equivalent exchange.
Damn, bro.
Equivalent exchange took place in the world of Robs last night.
Oh, all right. With that, Bryce, you want to take us into Nickel versus Woodburn?
Sure. Let me just segue for what TJ said earlier. Robbie Lawler's KO knockout. There's one thing about UFC. KOs are infectious. You start seeing one, you start seeing many. And we got one segue very quickly in the first opening fight of UFC 290, which was Bo Nickel versus Valentin Woodburn. Of course, Bo Nickel kind of has the Dana White privilege. He has the machine behind him. Everyone's booting him up to be the next big thing. And he's proving it slowly but surely, having the 2 wins on the Contender Series. But he did have a kind of a I don't want to say controversial. I think there was a little bit of controversy when he had the fight with Jamie Pickett.
I mean, the groin shot, bro. No, it was the kick to the groin that was never accounted for.
Yeah, it was that groin shot. And then we also have Valentin Woodburn. Apparently that was his debut. His last fight was in combat something.
He got the call last minute.
Yeah, last minute, and I believe Matt, you said that he was just in there dolo.
Yeah, he came without he wasn't able to get there with his corner. He got the fight basically on like a week's notice or so, because Trishan Gore was out with an injury.
Yeah. So going into the fight, 38 seconds in, gets the knockout. Very clean. It looks like what was happening, it was kind of like just them trying to read each other. Bo just kind of keeping his distance, but coming in, what I want to say was a rear hook. But then he got him with a front hook that really stunned him, and then Bo put in the finishing touches. It was a very clean win. Bo Nickel showed what he needs to show. And the Nickel train is gonna keep going. It's not much else to say to that, but I'll pass it on to Matt.
Oh, it ain't nothing else to say. Bo Nickel was like, man, they was like, man, he's gonna have to wrestle this guy, and then he just pops his ass with that overhand hook. That was it. Like, the guy went right down. Like, the referee definitely did his job and got in there, because Bo Nickel just went right down after him, which obviously, that's what he's supposed to do. But shit. Yeah, grand opening, grand closing. TJ?
Mink, and I believe Mink. The other thing I'll say is You know, Bo Nickel has a machine behind him because both of his appearances since coming off the Contender Series and being in the UFC have been pay-per-views. This is his second appearance, and it's also a pay-per-view. So just putting that out there. They definitely want him to do well. Yeah, that's all I got to say. Take us into the next one, Matt.
All right. We had Jalen Turner and Dan Hooker. Now, we haven't seen Dan Hooker in a little minute. But we have been seeing a lot of Jalen Turner as of late. It's pretty much been I would say kind of on a tear in the division. The tarantula. He's once brought a tarantula with him to the weigh-ins. At any rate, he was coming off a split decision loss.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw him do it. I thought that shit was crazy. That's when he was like I won't necessarily say a rookie, but like it was when he was like still early in his career, like when he was getting on prelims and stuff.
Yeah.
So we had Jalen Turner, who had not too long ago made his return back to lightweight. And we can pretty much can say the same thing for Dan Hooker, right? Dan Hooker's been a mixed bag of success, but he was coming off of a TKO victory in November of last year, and Jalen Turner was looking to pick up a victory after picking up a loss back in March in a split decision loss. Pretty close fight. That was on the UFC 285, the Jones Gone card.
Yeah.
So we haven't seen Dan Hooker for a little bit. Dan Hooker comes back with blonde hair, leg tattoos, and a big back piece.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, who is this guy?
Like,
yeah, for real. But you know what? He only meant that in terms of look, because this was a brawl, man. The first round, Jalen Turner was very technical. He was able to kind of really manage his distance, and it seemed like there was a little bit of miscommunication between Dan Hooker and his corner, just in terms of his movement, and things like that as far as the first round was concerned. And I gave the first round to Jalen Turner, and 100%. I was really giving a lot of that second round to Jalen Turner as well, especially after he landed that head kick. This head kick sounded like somebody clapped their hands together. And
then, my God, dude.
Even when they showed it in slow motion, it was like he got all of it. Dan didn't even go down. He just wobbled and was like, oh, shit,
I don't think he's okay.
Yeah. Man, this dude, and he, obviously he tries to press the issue on Dan Hooker, and Dan Hooker decides, oh, sorry, guy, my toughness is actually a 99. And just it starts to immediately like a fucking cornered animal just pick up the pace, and he starts landing like shot after shot on Jalen.
Yeah.
And eventually pretty much turns the whole fight around. Now, he turns this fight around basically in the last, I would say, minute and a half of the second round. And this was after he had been getting dominated by Jalen, but he just landed a right hand that seemed to have hurt him more than I would say it looked like it hurt him. And Dan just jumped on him.
The body language was definitely like, yeah.
Yeah, the body language was there. And Jalen did what he could to survive. And that was pretty much the story of most of the third round until Jalen then turned it around and started like coming out with combinations here and there and was able to kind of slow some of Dan Hooker's pressure down. But ultimately, I thought Jalen was going to get stopped in that second round because Dan Hooker literally beat him to the ground.
Well, there was quite literally a buzzer beater rear naked choke.
Yeah, that rear naked choke where he cranked it back. He fell all the way backwards, like literally on the 1 second mark, which also still kind of shows you the type of guy Dan Hooker is, that no matter how much time was left, like he was still going to go for it.
Right.
And I thought that was really cool. That was like he finished the fight on top.
Yeah.
He finished the fight in the third round on top. It was just, there was a lot going on, man. And I think in a lot of ways he was able to overwhelm Jalen. And Dan Hooker was able to walk away with the split decision victory. And it was even crazier because we find out afterwards, Dan Hooker broke his arm in this fight.
It was just a scratch, though.
Right. According to him, it was just a scratch. And there's at no point in the fight did he fight as if he was hurt. Like at no point did he at all fight as if he was hurt. He just kept on going. Like
I know he's feeling it today.
I'm sure he is. That adrenaline has definitely worn off. But yeah, man, shout out to Dan Hooker. That was a crazy fight. It was a crazy way to see him keep moving up through the division and continue to be a factor. You know what I'm saying? Continue to be a guy with a name. You guys got anything you want to add?
I have none to add.
Got enough.
You want to take us into Robert Whitaker and DDP?
That's way cooler than he deserves, but yeah. Let's
You
go
right, fuck
into
dude. Oh, my bad.
Let's go into it. So we had Bobby Knuckles versus Dricus Still Knox Duplessis. I mean, to quote my illustrious colleagues, I'm gonna keep it a bean. I was rooting for Bobby Knuckles. I was rooting for the Reaper. Dricus Duplessis, a white South African, calling the African champs of the UFC at the time. It was, I believe, Israel, who's still the champ, right? But then you also had Kamaru, and then you had Francis, and not calling them real Africans. That rubbed me the wrong way. And there's some tension about white South Africans. I'll just keep it at that. I'm not gonna dive too far into it because it'll just cause me to digress. Unfortunately for me, and I guess thankfully, I did not put money on this fight, but Duplessis got the TKO victory. The long and short of it. So it honestly, I guess if you look at the very first round, it could have honestly been a telltale sign of what was to come. Because here's the thing. That very first half of round one, it was Whitaker all day. He was taking control of the pace from the opening bell, but he even got a nice double leg going. But then when he tried to get into the grappling exchanges with Duplessis, that's when things started kind of going wrong, right? After about 3 minutes, it looked like Duplessis' download phase was over, and he started getting a good sense of rhythm, and you started noticing him like catching Whitaker. And then during the grappling exchanges, he almost got Whitaker in a Darce choke a few times. If you don't know what I mean by Darce choke, just think of a guillotine mixed with a rear naked choke, where it's like you're trying to essentially choke the person with your arm from like a cross side control position or a top position, if you will. But think like a side guillotine, if that helps you all understand, right? But yeah, like I was surprised at the grappling prowess that Duplessis showed, because he easily got past Whitaker's guard, and that he was using the Darce setup that Whitaker honestly defended pretty well. But what was Duplessis doing? He was dropping elbows every time. So he cut Whitaker pretty early on above the eyebrow. Round two, I really liked how Whitaker's jab was looking, because his jab is a tone setter and it's really fucking fast. It's really fucking fast. But man, like to me, based on the initial camera angle, it's like Duplessis threw a cross. Well, it was actually a right jab, because I believe he was in the southpaw stance. He threw a right jab that, to me, from the camera angle, looked like he missed Whitaker's head completely, and all of a sudden Whitaker just drops. I was like, did he slip on something? And then they showed the other angle. It caught Whitaker on like the right side of his jaw and dropped him. That was the beginning of the end. And then it just went from that to much, much worse. Like once Duplessis saw blood in the water, he just started swinging, and with each swing, he threw the entire apartment, not the kitchen sink, the entire apartment at this dude. And that was a wrap. Put Bobby Knuckles away. Did not like to see it. Did not like to see it at all. But what this ends up meaning is we do have the setup for Duplessis versus Adesanya, because guess who stepped into the ring real quick and had a full uncut Booker T moment without the apology. In the octagon, I was like, damn, okay, all right, are we doing this? We going full gangster, huh? And Matt pointed this out. I gotta give a shout out to Miss Brittany too for saying like, "Hey, for someone to wish for you to get to this
Man,
spot where you're at so they can beat your ass is crazy,
it's a
Did
wild way to
someone
think.
count how many times he said nigga? Like I would really.
bro."
It,
It was like he's like, "Yeah, what's up, nigga? You my brother
Yeah,
right now. It's
nigga.
all good, nigga."
Yeah,
And
nigga.
here's the thing. He started the convo hella chill. It's like, "No, it's all right. We're chill. We're chill." And they was like, "Yeah, nigga, what's up? What's up, nigga? Yeah, you my brother, right?" Yeah, I was like, "Damn."
yeah,
like,
took it there.
took it there. I'm gonna pass the mic over. Matt, what you think?
I am always like, I'm always amazed when I see Drakus win because, like,
Huh.
to me, his form and shit like looks terrible. But he like when you see how he's built and you see his arms and everything else and shit, it's like you can very clearly tell he's just strong as fuck. Like he has kind of an awkward style. You know what I'm saying? At least to me, when I see him, like it's not, this isn't even me putting him down. This is just his style, stylistically, like it's awkward. And when you put strength on top of that awkwardness, it's a whole thing. There's like, he used to have quote unquote bad cardio, but he keeps stopping people. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It was like, man, it looks like he's gassed after the end of that first round. And then, we find out in at least I did at least, when they were doing the commentary that he pretty much was fighting with like he couldn't breathe out of his nose. He finally was able to
Oh
get
yeah,
his
he
nose
got his
fixed.
nose fixed. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's finally able to get his nose fixed. And this was the first fight where he was going to be able to like really be able to breathe, and this is, another fight. This is his third fight in a row, basically, that he's stopped his opponent within the distance. And this time it was Robert Whitaker. And that's a big jump from Derek Brunson to Robert Whitaker. And I'm not saying that to be disrespectful. It's just one has been champion and one hasn't.
Right.
So, it was an impressive victory for sure, because to be able to beat Robert Whitaker in this division is like, that really is saying something when the only person in the division to beat Robert Whitaker is the champion.
Right.
Like, when he went to 85, no one beat him. And this is the first guy not named Israel Adesanya that has.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, that pretty much is the measuring stick. We'll see what happens when he comes up against Israel. You want to get into that next one? Or
Yeah, my bad. I was just like, I'm still kind of seething. But
yeah.
go ahead, take us into the co-main, please.
Yo.
Get some niggas out.
Bro, yeah, he's right though, low key. All right. The next one we had Brandon Moreno versus Alexander Pantoja. And this fight had a lot of like story background to it. Brandon Moreno, Mexican champion at 125. I mean, man, what a story, right? Like the guy is just like one of the most likable guys in the UFC. Just will fight his heart out and has proven that time and time again. The history he has with Alexander Pantoja dates back to Ultimate Fighter.
And this was prior to him being released from the UFC, correct?
Correct. This is prior to that. Brandon Moreno had made it into the UFC, though his initial run in the UFC wasn't very long. He came in after beating Luis Smolka in his debut. They put him on the Tournament of Champions thing. He fought Brian Benoit. He also beat Dustin Ortiz, and then he lost to Sergio Pettis, and then that led him to Alexander Pantoja. He loses that fight. When he was on the Ultimate Fighter Tournament of Champions, he lost also to Alexander Pantoja. Even so, he lost him prior to getting into the UFC, and then once they were both in the UFC, when they were matched up, he beat him again. After that, Brandon Moreno kind of did a little up and down, and he was able to turn his career around, and he beat Kai Kara France, Jussier Formiga, Brandon Royval, then we already know how his trilogies and quad, whatever you call the other one, the quad, whatever the fuck, with Davis and Figueiredo. We know how that goes. Alexander Pantoja, on the other hand, though he has not had as glamorous of a career as of late, he has been stacking up wins and wins against quality guys and finishes at that. The last person that he lost to was Askar Askarov, and he after that went on to beat Manuel Cape, Brandon Royval by submission, as well as Alexander Perez by submission, which is what led him to this fight.
Mm-hmm.
He was very confident coming into this that he was going to be able to beat Brandon Moreno, and I will just say this was a hell of a fight. I thought this was the best fight of the night. Brandon Moreno is in a fight, so obviously that means it's going to be a banger. And man, he and Alexander Pantoja, I feel like really pushed each other to levels I don't think either guy was familiar with. And it's crazy. Like, I think more so for Brandon in this case, like, dog, you have been getting in a lot of wars for like the last 3 years.
Yeah.
His first fight
nothing but
against Davis and Figueiredo was in 2020. And that was the only person he had fought for 2 years. Then he fights Kai Kara-France.
Right.
Davis and Figueiredo, again, 5 rounds. And then Pantoja, 5 rounds. Even though he stopped him in 3, but you get what I'm saying? Like, just he's putting his body through a lot. Man, I personally felt like the grappling was the difference. It was a huge difference. Alexander Pantoja, just the way that his grappling looked when he was with Brandon Moreno was just, it's not regular. You feel me? Like, no, man, he was on this dude like a spider at certain points. Like, literally, like as if he was Velcro to this guy's back. I felt like the grappling was really just, like I said, I felt like the grappling was what really made the ultimate difference between these two guys. And I think that was what closed that gap that allowed Alexander Pantoja to walk out of the UFC with the flyweight title strapped around his waist. You know, I know it was a split decision. I felt like obviously Brandon Moreno was getting the better of him with the strikes, but that was to be expected. But even in that department, he wasn't completely shutting Alexander Pantoja out. I just really think this guy might have his number, man, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
But I'll pass it over to you.
I thought so. It's like it's a combination of the grappling, and then that first round was clearly Pantoja's. But here's the thing, too. It's like the first half of the first round, it looked like Brandon Moreno was like, "Hey, I'm gonna tell you something right now. I'm not the same nigga you fought twice back before I got released in the UFC and after the fact or whatever." Because the first round, what did Pantoja try to do? He tried to muscle Moreno up against the fence, and Moreno was like, "Man, that's crazy. Let me show you something I've been working on: wrestling." Right? And he like switched it up on him, and like the vibe was really different, right? Moreno was using his head movement and his jab, man. I really like Moreno's jab. I see why he has that fucking saber tattooed on his left forearm, because this shit's fast. His shit's fast and it stabs people, man. Like, cause let's be real, he did some damage to Pantoja's face. We ain't never seen Pantoja look like that. Like, we ain't never seen Pantoja like be to the point where it's like, okay, maybe if they tacked on a 6th or 7th round, maybe Moreno could have finished him. But it's like, that fucking sucks. A guy you lost to twice, and then you're losing to him a 3rd time. And I feel like the Moreno that we saw was a good version of himself, but like Matt pointed out, that grappling, what sticks in my mind the most was the fact that round 3 and round 4 were super similar in that Pantoja clearly showed he did not want to tussle with Moreno like that, with the fists and the kicks, and was clearly choosing to turn it into a grappling exchange. And sure enough, he gets a takedown. Moreno does eventually scramble back up to his feet, and they're like up against the fence. But what ends up happening is Pantoja scrambles up to Moreno's back and maybe tries to finish RNC, but most importantly, just kind of holds Moreno in place, because Moreno does have good choke defense from the back. I wish he would have worked on how to get out of the body lock a little bit more, but there were a few instances where he flipped the script. He pulled the Uno reverse, like, oh, you got me in the body lock. No, player, you got me in your guard. Take this elbow with you. Another thing I didn't like was the 5th round. I think if Moreno had kept the fight to the feet on the 5th round, maybe the split decision would have gone his way. The reason why I say this is because his corner even told him, bro, do not let him get another takedown on you. Do not let him get another takedown on you. Brandon, look at me in my Christian eyes. Don't let him get another takedown on you. But 2 minutes in to the 5th round, Pantoja scores another takedown, and it becomes the same thing. Like, if you think about how the 5th round ended, Pantoja was on Moreno's back. Moreno was standing, and it was just a stalemate.
That's what I'm talking about. He just was latched onto him.
Yeah, it was a stalemate. Like, he wasn't actively trying to get the choke. Brandon wasn't necessarily trying to shake him off either. It's like, I don't necessarily know what was going on in either of their heads, thinking that this would have been the way to finish out the round, but I will say the decision and the way it went made sense. Personally, I think this is kind of Brandon's pattern. I think he gets the belt back again. And they do have a use case to make a 3rd or a 4th fight between the two of them, since technically speaking, it's only been their 2nd fight, both being in the UFC, as the first one was just off the Ultimate Fighter. But I mean, if they can run Davidson Figueiredo versus Moreno like 4 times, they can do this again. And I think it will be an exciting fight, and I'd love to see what Moreno evolves to. He's a very likable dude. But that being said, Pantoja's story makes him a more compelling fighter too. Bro, what he said on the mic about, "Are you proud of me now, Dad?" Fuck. Yeah, that's like shit, dude, because his mom raised him and his brother as a single mom. It's just like, damn, bro. His kids were in there, they were crying too. It's like, okay, this dude has been struggling to get to here, and for him to get that belt, okay, I respect.
I would like to say though that if they do run it back and Brandon Moreno does win the belt back, he is not accepted any more challenges from Brazilians. He is tired. A standard title reign with a couple of defenses. Brazil is just not going to be in the running for a while. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm with it. I feel you.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that at all. With that, shall we go into the main event? Alexander the Great Volkanovski versus Yair, or as they say in Australia, Yair. Yair El Pantera Rodriguez. Man, what can I say? It was the title unification bout. Bro, as soon as the fight started, it was like, okay, well, like, hey, it was nice holding on to that interim belt. And I like it. This was what was tough. I like both of these dudes, man.
Yeah,
I like Volkanovski and I like Yair. Because Yair is so unorthodox and he tries shit that if you took any type of taekwondo or kickboxing, your instructor would have been like, get the fuck out of here. What you mean a tornado kick in sparring? What do you mean a backflip, a bicycle kick in sparring? You are fucking crazy. I will knock your ass out. And he's like, but wait, coach, I'm making it work. And coach is like, all right. He is the exception. So like if you were in a gym with Yair Rodriguez, the coach would look at him and look at you as like, he's the exception to the rule. You better stick to your fucking basics. like
why you gonna be telling Yair that shit? It's like, because he knocks niggas out with that shit.
Right.
That's why.
Like, you got knocked out trying that shit. Shut up.
How many title shots you got?
Right.
Oh, okay. That's what I thought.
Right. It's like, so this was highly anticipated. This was a chance for Mexico to gain another champion. They had just lost one. But they still have Alexa Grasso. So it's like, all right, if Yair gets this, boom, Mexico got another champion. And I will say one of the things that I like to see, but sometimes it's a little awkward, but I did appreciate the show of respect. It's like there doesn't always have to be conflict leading up to the fight. It doesn't always have to be like that. It could be mutual respect. It could be like, hey, respect each other, but this is business at the end of the day. But there doesn't have to be bad blood. And there was really no bad blood here. Volkanovski was like, you made me train even harder. But also it's like, what the fuck does that mean, train even harder? Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Volkanovski did his thing. quickly managed to figure out the range between lanky Yair and himself. Quickly took Yair down. Quickly established like some grappling and some damage from top position, and it ended up being that a few times. That being said, Yair did have his moments where it's like, hey, bro, you remember I got hands and feet on me, bro. Don't look down on my striking. But Volkanovski was like, that's cool, but I am also Alexander Volkanovski. And then sure enough, in round 4, fucking what was it? Hold on, I put it in my notes. He stunned him. I think was it the it was as Yair was throwing a kick, he threw the
He
right
threw a hook.
hand. He threw the
Threw
right
that right
hook.
hook.
He
Hooked
threw
his
the
ass
right
when he
hook,
threw a
stunned
quick.
him, and then just took him down with the double leg, which is like, no,
Picked
it
him up
wasn't even
and
the
dumped
double
him.
leg yet. No, before the double leg, he hit him with
Just
the
knee to the
Gojo
head.
versus Miguel. Hit him up
Yeah.
against the fence, then got the double leg, then took the top position, and it was a TKO off of punches. It was, man, it was
There was a lot
Volkanovski
happening.
in pure form. He was in the zone. Anything y'all want to add? Go ahead.
No, man. Volkanovski, I was telling them before we got on air. Volkanovski is one of the greats. Like regardless of the name and the pun and all that, and that I think there's something really special about featherweight. Like in at least as far as the UFC is concerned, because we've seen 3 now all-time greats in that division. Like all these are 3 all-time dudes right now. Jose Aldo, Max Holloway, Alexander Volkanovski, all of which have defeated each other before. Max being the guy that beat Jose, and Alexander being the guy that finally beat Max. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, because that was really how it went.
Right.
And the fact that 2 out of those 3 guys are still active, and that they're still setting records.
Yeah.
Every time Volkanovski and Max Holloway go out there, they're setting another record, reaching for another record.
Right.
And I just think that's crazy. Other than that, I don't have anything to add, man. Like who's a more complete fighter than him really right now? You know what I'm saying? Like it's really tough to put anybody in front of this guy.
Would you like to see a rematch with Ortega?
For what?
Good point. Good point.
Like not even it's not even no disrespect to Ortega. It's like he's beat everybody. Who else he gonna beat?
Right.
If you look at the featherweight rankings, the interim champion was Yair. Okay, he just stopped Yair. He's fought Max 2,000 times. You know what I'm saying? He's already beat Brian Ortega. He hasn't fought Arnold Allen yet. He can fight Arnold Allen. He can fight Ilia Topuria.
Arnold Allen just got put out. Well, he didn't get put out, but he fought Max Holloway, and he didn't get past Max.
Right. You're right. He didn't get past Max, so that got that out of the way.
Right.
So he can fight Ilia Topuria, who is going to be, if he gets that, he'll be fortunate enough to not have to fight Arnold Allen, Brian Ortega, or Max fucking Holloway. But he'll be unfortunate in the fact that he had to fight Volkanovski. Because like Josh Emmett is a good fighter. It's a great fighter. That's a hell of a guy to be able to beat.
Right.
But like literally, like the whole division is all people Alex and Max have beat. The whole division is just niggas they both beat already. Like Giga Jakazi, Chan Sung Jung, Calvin Cater. Like
yeah,
that was a sad one.
They need some fresh blood. Actually, no, they have fresh blood. It's just that the fresh blood can't make it past top 5.
Let's see what Ilia Topuria can do.
Right.
Because behind Max and Chan Sung Jung talking about fighting at some point. So, that'll get made. Blood.
Yeah, I don't know how much more damage Korean Zombie can take before.
Well, Max is gonna find out.
Oh man.
Wow, and again, going back
3,000 of my punches in the first round. That's crazy.
Going back to the craziness of the division. Chan Sun Jung.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, going
you
back to the
made
craziness of this
you made the
division,
ref
Alex
feel bad.
Caceres is in the top 15.
That's true.
So is Edson Barbosa. So is
Oh my
Dan
God.
Ige. So is Bryce Mitchell. So is Sadiq Yusuf, Mozart Evalev, Giga Chikadze, Chan Sung Jung, Calvin Cater, Josh Emmett, Elia Topuria, Arnold Allen, Brian Ortega, Max Holloway, Yair, and then Volkanovski. That's a Shark Tank.
Yeah. And I know, I think Volkanovski mentioned during the in Octagon interview that he's still got his sights set on lightweight too. So it'd be cool to see them run back Makhachev versus
This is the best. It's the best division,
Volkanovski.
top down, top to
Yeah.
bottom. This is the best division in UFC.
Mm.
Like, just as far as talent wise, top 15, complete 15 people. Nah, there's no other division is that, like, kind of just, I wouldn't even
Stacked.
say evenly
Yeah.
balanced, but like it's just
Just
a lot.
stacked. Yeah.
70 got a lot of people in it, but 70 got a few holes in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the divisions got a little ones here and there, like, oh, okay. Or like, who's this one? But like I think 45 might be the best division.
Say for I want to say bantamweight at the moment. Really, all the other champions are pretty definitive. Like I don't see them moving anytime soon.
Mm.
Damn, so you don't believe in Aljamain, huh?
No, I don't think Aljamain's getting. No, I think he's definitely beating Sugar Show. I don't think any champ's gonna lose their belt. Oh wait, I got them mixed up. Not Bantam.
No, Aljamain is bantamweight, right?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not thinking of I'm thinking of Moreno's
Flyweight.
Oh, flyweight, yeah.
I'm thinking of flyweight. I'm thinking of flyweight. Besides flyweight, I don't see any other division. I don't see a champ losing their belt anytime soon.
I don't know, man. Sean O'Malley is much bigger than Aljo is, and as
We've been
much as I
proven
like
wrong before.
Aljamain, bro, like
I think Aljamain
the
sold
judges
me.
have been looking favorably upon him sometimes.
Aljamain sold me in the last fight. He sold me. Cejudo, he's still Cejudo, and Jan, he definitively beat Jan, and it's arguable that Sugar Show beat Jan, and you can argue that.
It's like the only thing about Aljo is like he kind of gasses out or coasts a lot in the final. Once he feels like he's won enough rounds, he doesn't press it as much as he should, I feel like. And that always leaves me nervous. Like, dude, I don't think you realize how close this battle actually is, personally. But I digress. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I get you. It's definitely an interesting matchup, Sugar Show and Aljamain. There's still a lot of stuff we've yet to see from the Sugar Show.
Mm-hmm.
So for the fact that he's here, with a title shot, it's amazing, but also it's just very very questionable. Very questionable. Yeah, I think as he kept fighting like the people up the division, they've been wars. Like they've just been wars. I would rather him to run it back with Cheeto then maybe go against Aljamain. But he's just gonna get this title shot now. So.
It's interesting. Well, fellas, I thought, what was your favorite fight of the night? TJ.
I'm thinking probably Pantoja versus Moreno. That shit was insane.
Yeah. Honestly, I think for me it was Jalen Turner and Dan Hooker.
That was also pretty insane too.
That was just but probably just because of I liked a lot of the striking stuff. Because man, when Jalen had Dan Hooker hurt, man, that motherfucker was throwing the kitchen sink at him. The combos was nuts. The elbows and shit. I was like, yo, he just running the command list on dude right now.
Well, this is why I'm also like kind of mind boggled at how tough Pantoja is. But did you see what Moreno was doing? Like throwing hooks, double hooks to the body and to the head, like constantly at
Yeah.
Pantoja. And Pantoja was like, like, like just like, I'm gonna tough it out.
He
Let's
was like,
grapple.
damn, that's crazy. This is gonna hurt tomorrow.
Yeah. Oh well. My wife takes care of me. That's what he said.
Pretty
Like,
much.
yeah.
I'm gonna get
Dude,
some loving.
once my ribs heal, it's over for you hoes. Anyway.
Over. You funny as hell. But
Wait, Bryce, what was your favorite fight, bro?
I gotta say it's Bo Nickel versus Val. I like a good knockout. I like a good 1, 2, 3.
that's fair.
That is fair.
That is very fair. I would say, oh well, I guess I already said mine. With that though, next week we got Holly Holm versus Myra Bueno Silva, UFC fight night. And what do we got over on the boxing tip for next week? What's next weekend, TJ, if you don't mind me asking?
The 15th.
The 15th. What do we got cooking for the 15th? We got Alicia Baumgardner defending her title, her junior lightweight undisputed championship against Christina Linartudo. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So I'll be covering that. So next week, you guys can look forward to us covering Alicia Baumgardner versus Christina Linartudo on the Zone, and UFC Fight Night, Holly Holm versus Myra Bueno Silva. This one for the ladies. No, I'm just playing. Oh man, I crack me up. With that said, we will see you guys next week. You can follow all of us on social media. You can follow me at Matt Hambrick. That's MATTHAMBRIC TJ.
Y'all can find me on Instagram at Tuss4Skate. That's TUSS__SKATE. Bryce.
I can find me on Instagram, Ashe_Onsa. That's AXE_ONCA, baby. Where can they find us?
They can find us at Now Mind You Podcast, wherever you'd like to get your social media and wherever you'd like to get your podcast. And we are also on YouTube. We will see you guys next week, and you guys be safe. Peace out.
Peace.
Peace.